would be given by no other than the 6th President of the Republic of Mauritius, the former President of the Republic of Mauritius, and to introduce her, we have Dr. Dr. Rex. Thank you so much, Dr. Rex.
I'll just do this fast. The Chief Minister, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Minister for Social Welfare, right, and other cabinet members present here. Can we just give Mrs. Tuma a round of applause? I was just saying to Mr. Belema here, so I was so emotional when I was watching the video, and that's what life should be, impacting people. And I see this foundation amplifying the voices of women and also helping them through economic freedom. I'll just read, yes, again, it's a great privilege to introduce one of the most impactful African leaders here. She's a true Pan-Africanist. And I'll just read a little bit of her profile so you can appreciate what she's done and what she's doing for our continent. Her Excellency, Amina Group has served as the 6th President of the Republic of Mauritius. And prior to that, she has been the Managing Director for the CIDP, which stands for the Center International Development Pharmaceutical Research and Innovation, as well as the Professor of Organic Chemistry with an endowed chair at the University of Mauritius. And again, she is the first female professor at the University of Mauritius. Again, since 2001, she served as the Dean of the Faculty of Science, Pro-Vice Chancellor. She also worked at the Mauritius Research Council as Manager for Research between 1995 to 1997. Her Excellency also earned a BSc in Chemistry from the University of Surrey in the UK in 1983. And she holds a PhD from the University of Exeter in the UK in 1987. And during her academic journey, she has participated in several consultation meetings on environmental issues organized by international organizations. You could just read more on her website as well. And as a founding member of the Pan-African Association of African Medical Plants, she co-authored the first ever African Herbal Pharmacopoeia. She's the first, she authored the first one. She has 30 books. Can we also give her a round of applause? So several books, chapters, and scientific articles in the field of biodiversity, conservation, and sustainable development. She has lectured extensively across the world. She is a member of the editorial board of major global international journals. She has served on technical and national committees in various capacities. She's also been elevated to the order of the Commander of the Star and Key by the government of Mauritius. And she was also admitted to the order of the Chevalier de Lottery, the Palm Academic by the government of France, which is one of the highest honors in France as well. Also elected fellow of several academies and societies. Her Excellency received several international prizes, including the 2007 UNESCO Prize for Women in Science, and also the African Union Commission Award for Women in Science in 2009. Can we also give her a round of applause? That to show the impact she's made in our continent and globally. Again, on the 5th of June 2005, she was sworn in as the 6th President and the first female president. Wonderful. Wonderful. She was elevated again to the order of JSK by the government of Mauritius, as I said earlier on as well. She received the Trailblazing Award for Political Leadership by the World Women Leaders Council in Iceland. In 2020, she was elected honorary president of the International Engineering Institute, I beg your pardon, and received their 2025 IETI Annual Scientific Award. She also received the IAS Kostek Ibrahim Memorial Award from WIAS in Jordan. In 2021, she received the Benzer Bhutto Lifetime Achievers Award, the Obada Prize in Egypt, and also the Reform Recognition Prize in 2021. I'm so privileged to meet you. Your profile. In June 2016, she was on the Forbes list of 100 most powerful women in the world. So we have a and again, first among the top 100 women in Africa, Forbes list, 2017, 2019, and she's received numerous awards, one that was representing women on earth, in Africa, several awards. And she's still very humble. You know, we were on the same flight and I was struggling to leave her luggage. She said, no, I'm okay. And that's how she's been. And she's a true leader, she's a true African woman, a true Pan-Africanist as well. And she inspires me. She's a great inspiration to thousands and millions of women across the world. So thank you, ma'am. Again, she's honored as one of the Foreign Policy's 2015 Global Thinkers. In 2022, she served on the Science Advisory Committee of the Food and Agriculture Organization, Rome, and Strategic Advisor to the Board of the Pastel Network Paris. Can we invite one of the most impactful African leaders, a true Pan-Africanist, Her Excellency Nyawah Yainkain.
Honourable Chief Minister, Honourable Minister for Foreign Affairs, Team Cover, my dear sister, champion in Sierra Leone, emerging women, Tuma, pleased to meet you, and all the other ministers present today, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a great pleasure and a great honor to be in your midst today. So first of all, let me begin by thanking our host, of course, Tuma and her family, and of course, launching, of course, the Nyawah Yainkain Foundation. And Tuma, of course, your dear husband is not here, but of course, he is fully behind you, I'm sure. And I would have to say this, behind every woman's success, behind every man's success, there's a woman, but behind every woman's success, there's a family. And I'm sure your family is fully behind you. My special thanks also go to the people of this beautiful city, the president who has actually given all his support to welcome us, and of course for your kind hospitality. Of course, truly Africa. Thank you. But before I start my speech, I have a confession to make about your chief minister. You want to know? Yes. I met him when he was a student. And unwittingly, through his work, I was following the progress of Sierra Leone 10 years ago. And congratulations for all the work you've been doing. And I was following that, and I can tell you, it's been truly transformation. Right, ladies and gentlemen, as I stand in front of you, let me make my biases clear. As a former female president of my country, as a scientist, as an entrepreneur, as a mother, as a wife, I will tell you that women-related issues must remain alive in all our discussions. That's why, whenever I can, I use my pulpit, or should I say my bully pulpit, to speak on these issues and further engage conversation on them and hope to bring change in mindsets. Because we can change law, but if we don't change mindset, we don't get very far. It has been said famously in Islam that the heaven is at the feet of the mother, and the Chinese had said rightly so that women hold half the sky. Today, more than ever, the global economy needs precisely this kind of appreciation and the contribution of women to provide healing, to dry out the swamps of poverty and unrest, to provide empathy and care. The reasons, of course, are obvious. The world is in crisis yet again, with the spectre of war looming large, and global recovery is uncertain and turbulent. And even after the crisis abates, we will face grave challenges to growth, as a slower new normal sets, as the population ages, and as economic and social disparities increase. Given these challenges, we will need all the economic growth, dynamism, and ingenuity we can get in the years ahead. Thankfully, a key part of the solution is staring us right in the face, unleashing the economic power of women, bringing the world's largest excluded group into the fold. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a priority for the world to see and to know that many leaders in Africa believe in the contribution and in the power of African women ingenuity, pastoral care, communication skills, amongst others. Can women save the world? Personally, the answer to that question would be an emphatic yes. Ultimately, daring the differences, meaning wedging open the door to the contribution of women, the learning, the labor, and their leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, dear sisters, with this call in mind, I would like to talk about three things today. First, a bird's eye view on women's economic exclusion and its cost. Second point, unleashing the economic potential of women across three areas: economic policy, laws and institutions, societal and business culture. And third point, what we can and must do to further boost women's economic empowerment. So let's start with women's economic exclusion, its cost, and why it is harmful. To some degree or other, women everywhere face barriers to flourishing and achieving their potential. Gender gaps in labor force participation exist all over the world, ranging from 12% in the OECD countries and 50% in the Middle East and North Africa. As we speak, Sierra Leone is ranked 112, my country is at 98 on the 2023 World Economic Forum Gender Gap Index. Among the first 20 countries on that list, and from African continent, we note Namibia, Rwanda, and South Africa. However, some groundbreaking happenings have been taking place in Sierra Leone. The Gender Equity and Women Empowerment Bill passed in Parliament 2022 has now been signed into law and represents an unprecedented win for the women of Sierra Leone, representing the single largest increase to women's political participation in the country's history. Kudos, congratulations, of course, to the president. We will ensure a 30% quota for women participation in government for both appointed positions, including cabinet, ministry, ambassador role, and elected positions such as parliamentary and local council seats. However, it shouldn't stop only on the political front. It should also go in other sectors, in private sector, civil service, everywhere. Because having the women only in the political space is not enough. We need to be like another Norway, for example. If there is no 30% gender representation in the council board meeting, the government can close down that organization. So this is, of course, going very far, but of course we've seen how Scandinavian countries have progressed massively. Ladies and gentlemen, This is huge indeed, but the reality in many parts of Africa remains sobering as it dovetails with the global reality. When women do participate, they tend to get stuck in low-paying, low-status jobs. Globally, women earn only 3/4 as much as men. This is true with the same level of education and in the same occupation. Women also tend to be overrepresented in less secure jobs, just informal, temporary, and part-time work. This is partly because they want more flexible work options, and partly because they're locked out of higher status careers. Globally, women also tend to be locked out of leadership positions, where gender seems to matter more than ability. Also, women make up only 10% of the Fortune 500 CEOs as of June 2023. This accounts for less than 25% of senior management positions across the world. These numbers are fairly consistent across Asia, Europe, Latin America, and North America. This brings to mind something that one Japanese author once said. The term gender equality means that the status of men is raised to the status of women. Do we agree with this question? Yes? This might be true, but in the case of the labor market, we have to start with raising women to the position of men. We know that eliminating gender gaps in the labor force participation can lead to big jumps in income per capita. What about Africa? Here it has been shown that gradually raising female labor force to the average level of the G7 could raise income per capita by 4% permanently. We also know that on the business side, that prejudice does not pay. Companies that are open to women do better than companies that are closed. For example, Fortune 500 companies with the best records of promoting women have been shown to be 16 to 69% more profitable than the median firm in this area. This was shown in Japan, where a Japanese firm with most women managers reported returns on equity exceeded 10%, while the firms with the least women managers had low or negative returns on equity. So simply excluding women makes no economic sense. And including women can be a tremendous boon to the 21st century global economy. Ladies and gentlemen, let us look at the reality on African soils. Africa has the highest female representation at the board level of any region in the world. You may not think like this. At 25% against a global average of 17%, according to a recent McKinsey report. Unfortunately, the gender parity score, the GPS, for African women in leadership positions, including top and middle management positions, is just 0.33, a little below the global average of 0.37. So Africa's overall GPS, a measure of progress toward equality, was 0.58 in 2019, indicating high gender inequality across 15 indicators in work and society. So gender inequality on the continent remains high. Progress toward gender parity has stagnated over the recent years. At the current rate of progress, it would take Africa more than 140 years to reach gender parity. The question I have for you, sisters, are we prepared to wait this long? I would say no, of course not. So I come to my second point. How to unleash the economic power and potential of women? I think of three ways: changing economic policies, changing laws and institutions, and changing attitudes and culture. Let me start with the economic policies. In this domain, countries can lift up women by adopting more pro-female, pro-family approaches. Such policies include moving more from family to individual taxation, providing more affordable childcare, parental leave, and allowing for more flexible working arrangements. We know that such policies can work. We have the evidence. For example, in Sweden, it devotes 1% of GDP to childcare and pre-primary spending, more than most other countries, 3 times more than in Japan. It is no coincidence that Sweden has one of the highest female participation rates in the world. They take the workplace flexibility very seriously. Also, when more women work, economies grows. If women's paid employment rates were raised to the same level of men, the United States GDP would be approximately 9% higher. The Eurozones would climb by 30%, and Japan would boast by 16%. In 15 major developing economies, per capita income would raise by 14% by 2020, had raised by 2020, and by 20% by 2030. So this means that women could have part-time work, grow the economies without part-time rights. So ladies, let us convince our husband to allow us to go shopping. We improve the economy. So the second major area affecting women's empowerment is law and institution. In a study spanning 100 countries, the preliminary findings are that gender gaps are lower when men and women are treated equally under the law, in terms of inheritance, property, and economic opportunity. More specifically, what seems to matter most is equal property rights for married women, default joint tilting for married couples, and women's freedom to pursue a profession, get a job, open a bank account without prejudice or partiality. One example would be the case of Rwanda, where the legal system guarantees equal rights in terms of land ownership and inheritance, and the constitution enshrines gender equality, with 30% quotas for women in leadership positions, and they now, of course, at par with Sierra Leone. Because of this strategy, Rwanda tops the world for women in parliament with over 60% representation as of 2022. So notably, Rwanda has been able to make impressive progress in reducing poverty and inequality. And notably, Rwanda has been able to make impressive progress in reducing poverty and, of course, inequality, such important gains. Now think about Saudi Arabia, where some of the main obstacles to women participation are legal and institutional, restrictions on travel, participation in specific sectors of the economy, unequal property and inheritance rights. Encouragingly, Saudi Arabia has started moving forward in some areas, but they can still go further. I will tell you a small story. I recently met one of the princes, I will not mention your name, and I said to him, "Why have you allowed women to drive?" He looked at me, he smiled, I said, "Well, that's very progressive, you allow women to drive." He said to me, "Madam, the only reason we allow women to drive is economic, nothing else. They were saving millions and millions of dollars by having chauffeurs accompanied, etc., etc. Now they have women to drive. So at the end of the day, all the changes will come down to money. So let us make the case for more economic ideas being thrown around so that we can make the case. So of course, changing policy cannot fix everything, but we change the mindset as well. So changing policies, changing law, changing institutions cannot fix everything, but we also need an attitude away from a male-dominated culture to make it more open and receptive to the great contribution offered by women. This means knocking down the outdated obstacles that hold women back. Now we'll open a parenthesis here. Women complain that men tend to knock them down. But when women get to a position of power, they knock down other women as well. Now why is it so? I will tell you one thing. My biggest detractors when I was in office, they weren't men. They were mostly women. So this is something that I said to myself, I will raise the bar. I will tell women that we need to work together. As a system of women, because if we don't rise together, we'll collapse together. So let us think differently. So what I will say is that we need to take, of course, our diversity seriously. I find this very, very encouraging here to see the syncretic way in which you have towards religion. Muslim, Christian, they all live side by side with complete harmony. That's fantastic. So in part, that means taking diversity seriously, daring the difference, as I call it. It means taking a leap of faith in hiring women, promoting women, investing in women. It means having resources to strong mentors and role models who can reach out and pull up women behind them. Never doubt the power of encouragement, the world-altering potential of women helping women. To sum it up, we know what it takes to reach a more gender-inclusive economy. We know the benefit it yields. So let's do it. I don't like his philosophy. Just do it. So I come to my third point on female economic empowerment. The issue has particular urgency, especially in countries and regions where there's an aging population. As populations age, vitality will diminish and growth will slow, and it will be hard to maintain current living standards. We expect growth potential of only 1% over the medium term, and we all know that women have the ability, the potential, and the desire to contribute even more. Empower them to do so. We think that these measures can really pay off, adding 0.25% to growth each year if implemented aggressively. This is significant. Just think of a big economy, what 0.25% can do. Let me offer some thoughts of how we can fulfill our promises in the area of women empowerment. The overriding issue is to provide better incentives on both sides, making employment more attractive to women, making women more attractive to employers. Right now, many women leave work when they have children and do not come back. Recent advance suggests that 60% of women leave when they have their first child. And after they finish taking care of their children, they start taking care of their elderly parents. Employers fear that they will not get a return on their investment as women drop out. So they either do not hire women and hire them in career streams with soft skills and few opportunities for leadership. A related issue is that internal corporate culture often turns off women. Companies demand long hours, insist on face time, and tie pay to seniority rather than merit. One thing, ladies, you will not be allowed to have this famous happy hour. Men do. And when you come back late from work, society will say this woman is not looking after the family. She's selfish. But when the man comes home late, he's hardworking. He's looking after the family. So let's start with the policy, a key impediment in the limited availability of childcare, without which women cannot go back to work. The government could go even further by cutting away some of the red tape surrounding childcare and letting more private providers offer their services. And as women go back to work, who will take care of the children in the children's centers? Who will care of their elderly parents in the world's fastest growing aging economy? So in terms of other policy areas, countries could follow international best practices by removing tax disincentives for women to work, extending parental leave, and better targeting childcare allowances toward those who need them most. There is a limit, of course, to what government can accomplish on its own. We also need to address attitudes and cultures, especially in the world of business. In short, business must become more welcoming of women. One obvious step is to make work environment more flexible. This includes moving away from this ingrained culture of lifetime employment and long working hours toward a system based more on output and performance. Businesses can also encourage both men and women to take parental leave, father leave, mother leave. They could take more risk in promoting more women to high positions, which in turn creates more mentors and role models. Again, I know that some efforts are on the way, but I believe there's still scope to go further. So if you want a bright, strong economic future, then we need bright women who can also drive it. That means all strands of society need to embrace inclusion. Ladies and gentlemen, inclusion is a good note on which to offer my conclusion. History has shown great things can happen when women are given the chance to shine. Think of the iron will, the creative genius, the pioneering women in Africa behind the great women leaders of Africa. The list is too long for me to mention them individually. Think of these, and also of the millions of African women today, brimming with talents and potential. We have one here, Nyawah Yainkain, just waiting for the chance to make the mark and turn the dreams into reality. Let us, as a collective system, help them to unlock their doors to success and to unblock the avenues of opportunity. So I urge everyone, all women and men of goodwill to dare the difference and bet on women. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. For when women shine, their radiance will be forever undimmed. But before I close, I will just share with you my journey into the presidency. I came from an academic world with no political background. I said to myself, why can't I take a risk? I've taken 4 risks in my life. The first risk I took, I got married. It's a lottery, I tell you. I tell you why it's a lottery. Because if you marry somebody who is forever watching you and watching your progress, you're done. You're doomed. I married somebody who was a doctor, who was very happy doing his business, so he left me alone. So I said to him, thank you for your indifference. So that's good. So marry well. First advice, take a risk. Second thing I did is I took a leap of faith into our tradition, our ancestral knowledge, herbal knowledge from our grandmothers. So I'm standing on the shoulders of our ancestors, of our grandmothers. I've added value to that. This is where Africa is weak. This is where China and India are taking the lead. China and India give same value to allopathic medicine as traditional medicine. We shun it. We should not. That's my second risk. I started working on this, coming from the world of academia, high-flying labs in the UK, and coming to work on these. I was loved. I was called a witch. I said, okay, no problem if you call me a witch, as long as I'm the beloved one, so that's fine. The third leap of faith I did when I decided to end my academic career and take a risk into the unknown. And I think this is where David comes in, because he is very familiar with the Media Lab in MIT, to become an entrepreneur, to translate my business, my work into a business enterprise. This is where Africa, we must get on the bandwagon fast. How to create the ecosystem that will allow our youth with an idea to translate this into a business and create jobs. As Africans, we cannot be consumers of knowledge anymore. We need to produce them. Let us become producers of knowledge and not just consumers of knowledge. And I tell you, Africa is ready. Africa has got the ecosystem to do that, but we need to empower our youth. The fourth risk I took is to put my hand into the political arena. I was told I would not make it. It's okay. My father has always told me, trust in yourself. With your intelligence, with your whatever you had, you can do it. So I say to fathers, become that cheerleader of your girl child. Tell them they can do anything. As long as they put the money and effort, of course, hard work, there's no two way about it. You can do it. So I threw my hat. People said to me that you're a Muslim, you shouldn't do that. I tell you a secret. I said to the political leadership, because the pressure was coming in from all the mullahs that women should not lead. I said, you're not a scientist. I'm going to ask 3 questions. If you can provide me the answers, I'll be back out. First question, who was the boss of the Prophet? I meant to be his wife as well, anyway. Second question, who was his second wife? Okay, what was she doing? Third question, show me in the Quran where it's written that women should not lead. I'm going to cite some evidence. A week later, I said, good answer. Because Khadija was, of course, the employer and the wife. Married to the Prophet. Of course, she was 15 years his senior as well. Had a family. And then when she passed away, he married the second one, Aisha, who was going to the front, leading the army. And the third one, there's no way in the Quran said that women could lead. So I stayed. And then they said, you're going to get in trouble because there are, he said, David against Goliath match. I said, okay, so what? I'm not going to lose. So I went. And 1 December in 2014, when I was in my office, I was about to close my computer. I looked at the score for the election and I said, yes, I shall be president. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Former President. Your keynote address has been insightful, an eye-opener for us all, and very much useful to us. We find in your keynote address a lot of very useful advice that we could use as well as career ladies. Especially the one that touched me was, you know, if you are a woman and you're working late, you're selfish, unserious, don't care about your children. And it makes you feel bad as career women. It makes us feel bad. But then as the man, you're cheered on. Daddy's working hard. He's really trying. And all of a sudden, everybody sees you as a wonderful person. And you feel good to stay up late. So that touched me. Thank you so much. You also gave us an eye-opener of the wonderful complementary link between women, well, the complementary impact that women have on the economy, any economy. For an economy to thrive, there are women in their society must be empowered and must also